Well, hi there. Welcome to Friday. At least it's Friday for me. Friday evening. That's what today's lesson's about. It's about letting go. So let's just get right on with it, shall we? Or get right on with it. Emptying and letting go. First quote is from Meister Eckhart, the, at least to me, well-known Middle Ages mystic, who said, God is not found in the soul by adding anything, but by a process of subtraction. Let's see what that means later on, shall we? Ernest Holmes said it slightly differently, and probably easier to understand. When the greater comes in, the lesser leaves because there is no longer anything to give life to it. And that's from Creative Mind, page 32. And from our writer this month, Rev Kelly. When I began a deep dive into my healing journey many years ago, I worked with a therapist who spoke with me about identifying my beliefs, about recognizing which voices in my head are mine and which are other people's. She explained this in a way that made complete sense to me, and perhaps it will make sense to you as well. Imagine all of your thoughts are a tangled ball of yarn. Each thought you pull out and untangle allows you to discern whether you agree with it and whose voice is speaking. Is this my mum's voice, my ex-spouse's voice, the voice of someone from work? Discovering your true self and truly knowing your oneness with God, or the divine, if you like, works similarly. It's an ongoing process of deciding and evaluating, is this thought fear, or is it the divine? Is this thought filled with love, or is this thought destructive? Now, I'm going to come back to this in a second because, anyway, what is not mine, I can choose to let go of. What is not love is not God or spirit or the divine, and I can choose to let it go. All that is love and all that is God, the divine, spirit, is within each of us. In our human experience, we accumulated some things that are not ours to keep, and we can identify them, set them down, and walk away, being lighter, freer, and knowing our unbreakable connection to the divine. Okay, so the reason I was laughing was I don't remember the context completely, but we used to go to the Catholic Student Center at Rice University, and the nun, or one of the nuns who ran the center, one day kind of said what came on her mind, and she was talking about people on the road when she was driving doing crazy things, and she said sometimes she wished that she had this huge flamethrower and she could just get rid of the whole thing. And I thought, well, that's not really a nice thing to say, but she was being honest about what was going on in her head, you know. But once again, this all boils back down to doing our spiritual work. But I think something like this, to me, is something that you need to do with some help. Not all of us, but I would say most of us need some help from either a therapist, a prayer partner, someone we really trust, because it's not always easy to identify which thoughts are ours and which aren't, or which habits are ours and which aren't, or which points of view are ours and which aren't. The thing that was drilled into me growing up was guilt. I've mentioned this on numerous occasions before. You know, I grew up Catholic, And someone once said that, I think it might have been my wife actually, who said that guilt is the prerogative of Jews and Catholics. Yes, other people have it, but not to that degree, right? And my mother was really, really into guilt, and she instilled guilt into me. And to some extent, I still have it a little bit this day. But the irony is that our Jewish and Catholic friends, I can see it so clearly in them, the way that they act. And this is a simple example of how stuff gets in our subconscious minds that somebody else put there. I didn't put the idea of guilt in my own head. It was put in by my mother. And if she hadn't put it in my head, I'm sure some nun or some priest would have put it there. And I'm not condemning them for that, because they got it from people before them and they got it from people before them. And it probably goes back to Abraham. I don't know. But you know what I mean? So that's just a simple example of something like this. How did I get rid of it? Well, I was talking about sometimes you need help. Through many years, my wife gradually got me to release most, not all quite, I've got to say, but most of my guilt. I really don't act and feel that guilt as much anymore. Some stuff I'm sure we'll get rid of on our own, but I think a lot of this stuff is so deeply in there that we often don't recognize it. And that brings me back again to the idea of journaling, because even though I personally don't journal, and I know I probably ought to do, I don't. And I just accept that for now. Maybe one day I will. Journaling could be a good example of one way to get rid of all this stuff, because you can write it down and it's probably fairly easy to just let go of, or easier to let go of. So those are my thoughts, my ruminations on this passage from Reverend Kelly. I think it's a good one. I think it makes us think. And also, at the same time, I think it's good that when we start recognizing thoughts or patterns that aren't being useful, and they're not useful to us or anybody else, that we don't do that guilt thing and feel guilty about having them. No, we do something about getting rid of them. And as I said, sometimes you can do it on your own with a prayer partner, and sometimes it takes a therapist to get rid of it. And that's just the way it is. So, as I said, those are my thoughts on all of this. The affirmation, remember, affirmations are something that we're heading towards, that we want to put in our minds to replace something that's already there that isn't useful. And this affirmation says, I easily release all that is not mine. And that's acknowledging the fact that right now I don't easily release all that's not mine, but I am in the process of releasing it. I easily release all that is not mine. And the more I tell my subconscious mind that, the more it will believe it. And the more it believes it, the easier it's going to be to get rid of stuff. So it is a good affirmation. I easily release all that is not mine. So, tomorrow morning, Reverend Lisa will be here at 9:15. I will be back around about 5 tomorrow evening. The weather is considerably warmer than it has been. You know, we've been keeping these outside cats warm with stuff we put out there, little houses for them to go in, filled with straw and goodness knows what. Well, now we managed to clear them up a bit, just leave a few boxes if they want to lie in there. So hopefully they're a lot happier now that the weather's warmer. I certainly am happier. And until next time, please take care of yourselves. Namaste.